we think this is an amazing opportunity to take these organs, human organs, and we have also developed a program where we can source human organs with human tumors. We bring them to the lab, we bring them back to life, we reanimate them on perfusion devices, and we can keep them alive for up to a week, depending on the organ. And we work with drug developers to do experiments and study drug properties, drug efficacy, toxicity, a number of things, a number of questions that these researchers want to know.
We have Janet Nikolovski, who is essentially head of R&D, chief, let me make sure I get it right, chief data and innovation officer at Ravalia Bio. And so I'm gonna bring Janet out here. So Janet, thank you for joining us. A quick highlight about Janet. Janet, correct me if I'm wrong, you have 17 patents under your name. Is that right?
Patents and patent applications.
Okay, so patents and patent applications from 2004 to 2022. So you're slowing down and I'm picking up. Like I will get a patent hopefully in the next year, and then I'm going to get my 17 here really quick. Wow, 17 patents. That's incredible.
He has better odds of his kids doing that because he's got enough for running out in the world.
That's for sure.
You got 5 patents running around the world.
Yes, I do.
DNA.
I do. Yep, some of my DNA, I believe. We're waiting for the tests. All right, so Janet. Janet, again, she's come from your early beginnings with Johnson & Johnson, and did a ton of stuff. And I think a lot of the patents came from what you had done there, and have moved into Ravalia Bio. So Janet, tell us a little bit about your growth path, how you've gotten to where you're at, your origin story. I know it to some extent started at the University of Michigan. So go Blue.
Or maybe even before that. So I'd love to go, like, how did you get to where you are at today from like ground zero?
Wow. So I was born in, I was born in Detroit, Michigan. In Detroit, I grew up through middle school there, and we moved to the suburbs just to get out of Detroit and into a better school district, to be honest. But I am proof that you don't need the best education to kind of end up doing sort of well in life.
You're saying Michigan's not the best education? I'm just kidding. I'm kidding for you Wolverine fans out there.
No, Michigan is amazing at the University of. So I ended up going to U of M. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do initially in high school. My yearbook probably says I wanted to either become a doctor or work for NASA, which neither one I did. I was very pragmatic and practical, kind of growing up in Detroit with the auto industry surrounding me. I thought, well, I'll get an engineering degree because I know I can graduate and make a decent living, if all else fails, working for one of the big 3. So I ended up, I wasn't sure which kind of engineering. I flopped around. I changed my major, I think, at least 3 times. But I ended up doing chemical engineering in my undergrad. But I always loved science and biology and medicine. And so at the time, there were biomedical engineering departments, but they weren't undergrad. They were master's and PhD level at the time. So I said, okay, I'll do a master's in biomedical because that's where my heart is. And I ended up getting into a lab that I fell in love with the research. And I had never thought of doing a PhD. It was never on my radar, but I just kind of fell into it and I loved doing it. And so I thought, okay, well, I'll stay, and end up getting a PhD in biomedical engineering from Michigan. I bounced around a couple startups early in my career after I graduated. So I got bit by the startup bug early in my career. I was in the biotech space. And then I ended up, again, through networking and just hustling and putting myself out there, I got an opportunity to work at Johnson & Johnson. And, J&J, up until fairly recently, they had 3 sectors. They had a consumer product sector. So think about Johnson's Baby, Band-Aid, Neutrogena, all the classic products they made. They had a medical device sector and a pharmaceutical sector. I started my career at J&J in their consumer products business, always in R&D. So I've always been an R&D person, but I got to work there for about 10 years, really, grinding away and being trained early on in the consumer product space, which I have to say that it is an incredible place to, either start or at some point work in your career, because at the end of the day, everything's a consumer product. We work with people, and I don't know, to me, my opinion, it seems a little undervalued and unappreciated, but it's an incredible training ground in terms of understanding how to sell products to people and understanding the core insight behind what you're trying to create, and how to not only develop those products, but translating the science and into something meaningful that someone cares about. So I did that for a while, and I loved it. I ended up loving it more than I thought I would. I always thought in the back of my head, I wanted to get back to biotech or back to the startup world. Because J&J is so big and broad, I had the opportunity to move around a lot. So my career path is kind of unusual and unique, that I bounced around a lot of different places. So I did consumer products, and then we started a new business in the B2B space in health and wellness. So I got to do digital health for a bit. I got to do medical device for a bit, and I ended my career the last 4 or 5 years in pharma. So I got to do I launched a giant digital clinical trial with Apple, and then I ended up in oncology. So I was all over the place, and there's a lot of lessons to be learned and unpack there as well. But I left J&J after 20 years and got this opportunity to go back to a startup world finally, with Ravalia Bio, and that's where I am today.
And so now we're waiting for the day where you all of a sudden tell us that you're dealing with cars, like you're going to be.
Yeah.
Totally.
And now I'm a mechanical engineer with Ford Automotive.
In
when
retirement.
AGI is real and Transformers come into existence, and then the bio world is actually just talking about robots turning into people.
So
Absolutely.
tell us, I want to come back to that, to your career in a second. Tell us a little bit about Ravalia Bio, what you guys are doing. Obviously you're on the forefront of it in the research phase of things. So tell us what you're doing. Tell us what Ravalia Bio does, the mission, etc.
Absolutely. So I came across Ravalia actually while I was still at J&J. So at J&J, I was leading a group studying and developing products for renal cell carcinoma, kidney cancer. And we were struggling to find a model. We were trying to deliver drugs within tumors, and we're struggling to find a viable model for understanding what happens when you squirt a drug into a human tumor. They're very, very different architecturally and structurally and biologically in some ways than the traditional models, mouse models, petri dish models, cells in a petri dish. So I found Ravalia through that. And what we do at Ravalia is we work with the transplant community, and we take in organs that have been rejected for transplant. So there are many reasons why organs can get rejected. And sadly, these organs don't get used and they just get discarded. We think this is an amazing opportunity to take these organs, human organs, and we have also developed a program where we can source human organs with human tumors. We bring them to the lab, we bring them back to life, we reanimate them on perfusion devices, and we can keep them alive for up to a week, depending on the organ. And we work with drug developers to do experiments and study drug properties, drug efficacy, toxicity, a number of things, a number of questions that these researchers want to know. But what's unique is that we can study them in a more relevant model, in a human-based model that is hard to do today, because most of the models are more animal-based or in vitro cell culture-based. And we believe that it has a much higher translation to what you'll actually see in the clinic. Because what happens when you're developing drugs, you spend 10 years many, many millions, almost $1 billion on research preclinically to gather enough data to say, okay, is this drug asset, is this going to work once we bring it to the clinic? And will it have minimal or no side effects? And you kind of do everything you can to understand everything about this, so that way you feel comfortable to make the go decision. We're going to take this into the clinic, first in human trial. And then you hold your breath and you hope that everything goes okay. We think we can do that. We can help folks do that faster, better, potentially cheaper, to make sure that those drugs actually work and do what they're supposed to do.
Because you're using real human parts that came through transplant but can't be used, whether it's blood type or for whatever reason. And so instead of throwing that away, which I know this sounds morbid and crazy, but instead of getting rid of this kidney, liver, whatever it is, and just going, well, I guess we can't use it, you guys are recycling that and being able to use it for a lot of good. That's pretty cool. That's
Absolutely.
awesome.
And I think the most beautiful part of the story is the story of the donor and the legacy. So if you imagine, and we work with these families and organizations that work with these families, you imagine that, you're a donor and you have this beautiful opportunity to give life to someone else who's been waiting on the list. And last minute, for whatever reason, it can't happen. And it's devastating. It's devastating to the donors and the families. And so we give the opportunity to be able to use their gift and extend their legacy in research, with the potential to not only help one person, but the potential to help many who are struggling with perhaps the same disease that they succumb to, right? And so it's actually really, for me, that's the most touching part of the business, is being able to give these donors the legacy that they deserve and that they want.
That's awesome.
So and I have to assume that AI is becoming part of what you guys are either using, or I guess in some ways, and again, I'm not the technical person. Shane's more technical than I am. I'm the big dumb idiot. But I think of what you're talking about, and I'm like, a lot of your data will be able to be consumed almost by AI and create models for the future. Does that sound pretty accurate?
Absolutely. Actually, it's a brilliant question. That's exactly where we're going. We believe that human data and human data trials is kind of how we've branded what we do. We believe that this is, it's here today, but it's the up and coming. And I think that there's a lot of discussions now and a lot of work going on in leveraging, obviously, AI for drug discovery, for drug development. A lot of people are doing this and getting into this space, and it's hot right now. Your model is only as good as the data you feed it, right? And so, there's wonderful data sources, but a lot of it is based on these traditional models. We believe that training models with specifically human data, and not just our human organ data, but across what we term the human data stack, across various different dimensions. And there are reasons and good reasons why you may use cell culture type of models, organoid type of models, but all of that data integrated and translated through what we think is the Rosetta Stone at the human organ layer, we believe will unearth much more powerful, much more predictive models. And that is where we're going. That's where we've started to predict things that are meaningful.
That's really interesting, because it makes me think about like all the other types of industries that are trying to do very similar things, but it's like we can only use synthetic data because it's like you don't, like, there's certain things in life where it's like we don't want to practice these things. It's kind of like self-driving cars. We don't want to practice cars getting into accidents in the middle of the road. We don't want to practice a car. Like, I know one of our clients, it was practicing like a umbrella going across the street and the car hitting it versus an umbrella being held by a human and hitting it. And it's like, well, we don't want to practice hitting humans with umbrellas every single time to like make sure that the car drives right. Or, Axon's a client of ours, and they have simulated data sets where it's like we're trying to train police officers how to talk to somebody before they jump off a cliff. And it's like, we don't want to use like real human data to watch somebody maybe jump off a cliff or not. And we don't want to train people off of that. And you guys are in a unique position where it's like you have organs that you can actually train with, actually build real models with, versus these other two scenarios that I'm talking about. They have to use a lot of like these video game like simulations, which is like artificial simulations and artificial data sets, but not real data sets. And you guys are building real data sets with real organs and being able to create what hopefully will be real impact in the future. And that's really exciting. And I'm curious what will come out of that in the future because of it, and how that's going to improve human life, and improve human models in the future. That's really kind of exciting.
Yeah, and I love the way you phrased it. So similarly, you don't want to practice, dosing in a real human patient when you don't understand what is the optimal dose. And there's this balance you have to play with efficacy and side effects. You want to dose high enough to be able to be efficacious, but you don't want to dose too high because then you start, having side effects. And so how do you hit that right? Well, you can use our model without any risk, and you can fail tremendously if you want. I mean, you can try all kinds of different things without fear, and you learn through those experiments and through those failures, and you can kind of titrate and figure out a number of different questions.
I have to assume Ravalia doesn't focus on conquering every disease and every organ and every, from bone marrow to kidney to, to liver failure, all of those things. Where do you guys tend to spend most of your energy?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. Our model isn't one size fits all for sure. And this is what we think about a lot, is context of use, and where do we have a truly differentiated offering, where people just can't, where there's an unmet need. Some animal models were great, right? And they're perfect for what they're intended to do. So we focus on right now the organs that are easiest to keep alive, reperfuse and keep alive. So kidneys are quite hardy, and they're, kidney transplants are probably the number one biggest ones in terms of volume. So we focus on kidney, liver, and we have done some work in lung. There are other areas, heart, that we hope to go into one day, but kidney, liver, and lung are our main focus there. We focus on toxicity, what's known in the field as ADME tox. We focus on efficacy, biodistribution. Where does your drug go? Does it go where you want it to go? Those kind of questions we think our model are really, really well suited for.
No one spends time on the spleen. It's like the forgotten organ, right? Nothing with the spleen.
There's pancreas. Yeah, I think right now is just logistics. What can you relatively easily, bring back to
because
life?
you can't conquer them all at once. But I think in a lot of ways you're proving at least for me, I think the most unique part of the whole offering, as you described it, is I know it's such a bad term, but the recycling of these organ donors' organs, instead of being gone to waste, being utilized for something that is outrageously beneficial. There will be someone, to your point, kidney organ donor could save one life, but now all of a sudden that kidney is rejected for whatever reason. There will be, if there's some sort of spotlight, which I'm guessing you guys do, where it's like, that kidney actually is part of a trial that could turn into a drug that saves millions, I guess, billions, whatever we want to go down that path of how big that could really be, almost more impactful than the one-to-one kidney transplant.
Absolutely. And we actually are doing that in a very small scale now, is closing the loop and bringing those stories back to the families, to say, hey, remember when we talked to you last? Well, here's what's happened since. It's been part of this research for this thing, and it's really, really impactful. really, really impactful.
I'm really curious. So like there had to have been a moment. So like early on in my life, like I had somebody ask me like, Shane, what do you want to do for a living? And that question for me was always like really challenging. And I really struggled at answering that particular question. And I at one point had a mentor that shift that and was like, let's stop thinking about what you're going to do for a living and like how you're going to do it and why you're going to do it. And so it's just like, what kind of impact do you want to leave on this world? And, you know, I have seen with you, it's just like the type of impact that you're leaving on this world. You've worked on really interesting problems. You've kind of stayed in that R&D sort of space, but I'm curious as to what inspired you to make this kind of area, this kind of domain, the impact area that you wanted to, I don't know, maybe leave a legacy this year or leave a legacy. Like, why did you choose this type of area to create impact versus what you could have done?
Yeah. You know what? If I look back on all the different projects and that I've done, and whether it's research or products that we actually got into people's hands to use, the memories that stand out the most are seeing the impact kind of one-on-one. I seeing like focus groups where I got to see people, actually using the product and talking about how it changed their life or how they interacted with it. Or more meaningful, before I left at J&J, I spent a while doing this large 35,000 people clinical trial. It was a digital trial that we partnered with Apple to. And the central question there we wanted to answer is, does wearable technology like the Apple Watch, does it make a meaningful difference in health outcomes? And, we designed and we executed this large 2-year trial where, we gave people the watch and we watched to see it does a fantastic job to detect irregular heart rhythms. And if the watch could alert you and then you go and get a proper diagnosis and then you get treated, could that actually prevent stroke, a meaningful health benefit? I say that only to give you the context because what struck me, so we created this, it was all digital through an app. So we designed this app and all the interactions happened to the app. And one of my roles in this was to amass a huge data set to really understand people, not just from, what the data that the watch brings in, but holistically to understand who the person is over this 2-year period across a variety of health domains. So we asked them about all kinds of things, mental health and stress. How are your sleep patterns? Physical activity, you name it. We had their attention for 2 years. So we thought, why not, grab this opportunity? And as luck or unluck would have it, COVID happened in the middle of our study. So we launched some questionnaires around your experience with COVID before the vaccines or on vaccine hesitancy. And would you get the vaccine? We really try to understand these people over time. And what struck me was reading the App Store reviews and reading the emails that came in. And what we gave people through all these touch points and surveys and questions, we gave them a voice, right? So if you think about why would they sign up to be in a clinical trial, right? What motivated them? We did a lot of market research, and this is kind of going back to what I learned in my consumer products days, is really understand the insight and the why. So we try to understand, why would someone come in and volunteer to be part of this? There has to be more than making a couple $100 or getting access to a watch. And it was around, I want to take care of my health. I think this study can help me care for myself. And I want to help medical research. It was very altruistic. I want to be part of medical science and help others like me. And that was incredibly compelling. And to read all the feedback, unsolicited feedback that we got over those 2 years on, thank you so much for this trial. I love being in the study. I've learned so much. It gave people a voice. And so kind of fast forward to your question today, one of the most compelling things is giving voice to donors in this way. People who gave the most precious thing of themselves sorry, it's touching. And, it's giving them a voice as well. So I think that's what's most inspirational for me, and what I remember most out of all of my work.
So this is going to be a hard pivot. So we're talking all good stuff there. I'm curious. You mentioned, hey, I worked for 20 years at Johnson & Johnson. It was an amazing training ground, all this stuff. I leave and now I'm at Ravalia Bio. A lot of people that watch this are, I mean, again, we're a recruiting agency. So they're people who maybe we've worked with in the past, or they're switching jobs, or they're thinking of switching jobs, or whatever, right? And so you left after 20 years. So 20 years you spent all your days at one company, swearing by Johnson & Johnson. You have the giant tattoo on your shoulder, which, you've got it covered right now. But
Absolutely.
and then all of a sudden one day it was done and you moved on to another place. What was that like? What did that transition? Was it awkward when you left? Was it, or was it exciting? Obviously you went from like every day, you knew every person, you probably had set daily stand-ups with your team or whatever it looked like. And all of a sudden it was like a whole brand new grouping of people. What was that transition like?
Yeah. I mean, I agree. And within J&J, I moved sectors. And so it did feel like different companies, different people. I think the hardest part of any transition is finding your ground. To me, it always felt like unstable, imposter syndrome, like, oh my God, do I belong here? Are they going to see through and think what an idiot? All of those things. And the learning curve, right? I think people underappreciate how long it takes to learn a new area. It takes a good 6 months, if not more. And I have so many stories. And then kind of to your question, I didn't leave, full disclosure, I didn't leave voluntarily from J&J. I was affected by a layoff, which there's probably a lot of people now who can say the same thing, just the state of the world today. I was leading a group and budget cuts came, and then they decided to cut that whole area. I hit my 20 years and it was hard, right? It's of course emotionally difficult, but I also always had wanted to go back to biotech and startup, especially the startup world. So I thought, okay, well, this was the kick in the butt I needed. And I still love the company. We actually still do some work with them and my old colleagues. And like you said, I might as well get a tattoo because I have a deep love for them.
I think that should be the 20-year bonus for all companies.
Taylor says that he's going to get this one, this one, it as a tramp one day.
That is a cool one.
As a cover up for the existing tramp stamp that he has.
I do have a tramp stamp. It was a lower back tattoo 25 years ago when I got it.
I just had to air that out in public.
Thank you for that.
I love it. We've gotten really, close, I feel.
Yeah, we have gotten very close.
So the transition into the, completely different culture, completely different side. I went from hundreds of thousands of people company to 20.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, very different for many reasons.
I would agree. I think there's a lot of people right now, and we hear it all the time right now, because there's so many people that I know and I've heard stories from, and we get emails all the time on our website, like people asking us for help for them finding a job and whatnot. And one of the things I commonly read is like, I was at Amazon for 20 years and I just got let go of a part of a team, or I was at Microsoft for 20 years, or I was at, Enter the Blink for 20 years. And then all of a sudden they're like, I haven't even interviewed. Like, I don't even know how to interview. I don't even know how to get started. And there's a lot of fear around that. But, and I feel like a lot of people, and you took advantage of that once you left and joined a startup, and you got into a really cool kind of unique position. But one of the things that I wanted to kind of go back to that you said is, and looking at your career, you had gotten so many promotions. There was clear line of like responsibility for you. Clearly through those promotions, people trusted you, people heard you, people saw you. But yet you still said there was moments where you felt like you had imposter syndrome and that you felt like, are people going to believe me? And I would say that the data would show, like, you know, speaking to somebody that truly believes in data and has a voice for people through data, you weren't an imposter. People believed in you, trusted you, and matter of fact, they promoted you. So I'm curious as to, like, why were there moments where you felt like you had imposter syndrome, and what are the things that you did to still take a step forward, even though you felt like there was imposter syndrome, even though other people around you clearly trusted you, promoted you, pushed you, and ultimately you're in a C-level role, right? And there's a lot of people that never get promoted or very often get passed up on a promotion, and they feel like they have imposter syndrome too. But you were able to take that step forward that allowed you to keep going. So I'm curious as to why. Like, why do you think that?
You know, it never goes away. You know, I still, you know, it's not like all of those successes and I look back and I think, okay, you know, now I've made it. Definitely not. I think it's partly what drives me. I think it's also what I have learned about myself, and it's taken time, right? I mean, I've been in the game, what, 25 years. Um, and I've learned some things about myself. I've learned, I still have insecurities, but I've learned through proving it to myself over and over and over again that, okay, I am good at this and this and this. I believe it now. I believe it. But it's also kind of, I've stayed true to the genuine passion I feel inside for what I do. And it doesn't matter even what the single project is. I truly, like, whatever project I've dove into, I've really kind of passionately fall in love with the work and with the project. I believe in what we do and I get genuinely excited by it, and I love kind of this space that I've carved out in my career around taking the unknown and shining light on it. You know, the image I always kind of think of is being handed a lump of clay and then trying to figure out, what am I going to mold out of this, and figure out how I'm going to do that. And this is why I love the space of innovation so much. And you know, many times in my career, I've been told by bosses to take certain roles, you know, tried and true roles, like, oh, if you go up this path, you know, the well-tried path, career path, you'll get promoted much, much faster. And I've always said no, because, you know, it was a well-laid path. Like, other people have gone through that path, and it was just like, okay, step through these. And I always like the crazy, innovative projects that, you know, some crazy leader had, and let's try this new thing. And J&J was wonderful that it allowed us to try these new ventures and set up new ventures. And honestly, almost all of them failed throughout my career. I've venture after venture after venture that was failure. So maybe I got promoted, and there are many times when I didn't get promoted because people don't like to promote failed projects. But that's where my heart was, you know, and I love the challenge of doing that kind of work and trying to create something new that hasn't been created before. So yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I was lucky that some people believed in me, and they brought me along with them on the ride to try these new, exciting things. I always believed in the vision, in the venture, in what we were trying to do and the potential of it. So I think that was kind of the blinders.
Well, I think that's awesome. Clearly passion is a big part of why you've been able to be successful, and you've had all those promotions, and then you know, over at Ravalia, watching what you guys are doing. So since we're kind of coming to the end of our time, I don't want to take too much more of your time. I want to get your take. Obviously, being in the position you're in, you use all sorts of products every single day at work, and all sorts of products at home. And by the way, for everyone watching, she is not prepared for this, but what is your not sponsored product spotlight? What's a company that you use? And it can be something on the consumer side. It's a lip gloss you love, or it could be a SaaS product or AI product you consume every day at work. What's something you love in a company you love working with that you want to highlight here? And no, you're not paid for it, but just because you love working with them or hate working with them.
Yeah.
Which would be awesome.
This is hard because I didn't have a heads up. So I have to kind of go, I think right now from I'll say two, a personal one and a company one. Right now we're, and this isn't horribly sexy, but we're working with Notion. I love working in Notion.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Which is, what's that?
I said, which Notion
Notion's
is
awesome.
So what do you guys use Notion for?
Totally.
Like what's the functionality you guys are using it for on a daily basis?
So I use it to take notes from meetings, to kind of capture things from meetings. We use it to collaborate back and forth with just, a few of us. It's hard. We struggle with making sure we're communicating throughout, and we're kind of staying, because it's so fast. Everything's moving so fast, and everyone's out there, capturing different insights and doing different stuff. It's one place where we can not only capture it all and keep it all organized, but share all with each other. So I don't have to be at every meeting. I can kind of go and see what was learned here or there. So I think to collaborate, I think it's a wonderful tool.
I think
and then the personal one, and this is, go ahead.
I was going to say, the reason why I thought Notion was so interesting is because, especially when you have a complex role like yours, I have to assume that people like to communicate in different fashions: Excel, video, text, and you can use just about any medium or any form of communication, and you don't have to like just choose PowerPoint or a doc or a sheet. You can do all of that all in one single place, and it's like, here you go. It's like a Thanksgiving. It's like Thanksgiving dinner for like note taking. It feels like sometimes. 'Tis the season.
Yeah, you can link to different. I think that's where I struggle personally most, is there's so many systems and tools, and then you forget, like, okay, where is this? Is it in SharePoint? Is it in like where? And it drives me crazy. But you're right. With Notion, we can kind of put all the links in there and keep it all organized, and can be a one-stop shop that'll take you to different places if you need to find stuff. But it's always a struggle, I think, keeping it all organized, trying to figure out where the latest doc is for X, Y, or Z. I think we're still trying to navigate that.
All right. So what about your personal, not sponsored product spotlight?
Yeah, the one that I just used last night. It's called Snooze Band. So it's a headband that has headphones in it, so you can go to bed and it's comfortable, and you can wear it and you can listen to podcasts or music or whatever you want at night before you fall asleep, and you don't have to wear those uncomfortable AirPods in your ears. You just kind of wear a soft headband.
All right. I actually do. I
So-
fall asleep to a podcast every night. So like I throw in an AirPod and then fall asleep, and then I wake up by rolling over the AirPod and afraid that I broke it.
Yeah.
But all right. So Snooze Band. I like it. All right. So cool. Notion and Snooze Band. All right. So on to one last product, Netflix. What are you currently watching on Netflix? Give us a good recommendation, because I just finished a nasty horror.
We're done talking about it.
You know what I've been watching? Mr. Robot.
Okay.
I don't
My
know if
father
you-
is obsessed with Mr. Robot.
What
It's
is
also
Mr.
one of his favorite actors of all time.
What's Mr. Robot?
Yeah. So it's I'm not that far into it, but yeah, Remy Malek, I think is his name, the lead actor. He's phenomenal. So he's a hacker and struggling with all kinds of stuff, and he's trying to save the world, or kind of stick it to the man by hacking, and all these crazy things happen, and then the underworld and all of it, and it's quite fascinating.
Yeah, he's like the
hacker.
Batman of cybersecurity.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
He's like a vigilante. Yeah, he's like a vigilante, and he's does good and bad, and he's like trying to get rid of the. Well, you met those people that were like at that crypto conference. It's like, I imagine he like helps uncover the people that accidentally built the dark web on accident.
Nice. Okay. All right. So the Silk Road. Silk
Yeah,
Road.
it's like Silk Road.
Got it. All right, cool. All right. So Mr. Robot. So I'll have to check that out. All right. So we've taken a lot of your time, Janet. We appreciate every minute you've given us. This has been awesome. So hopefully everyone goes and checks out Ravalia Bio. And so how can they find you and or connect with you? Are you guys currently hiring? Is that something that you guys are making a big hiring push?
We are actually on the engineering side. So tech folks, software developers, we are definitely looking. So you can find me on LinkedIn, just, look for my name or go to the website. And then you can reach out through the Connect Us part of the website as well. Would love.
Perfect.
Would love
That's
to talk to
our specialty is on the software and the engineering and product side of things. So
amazing.
I would guess that's where the majority of the people watching right now are coming from. So that's fantastic. So again,
Brilliant.
kind of specific roles that you're really looking for that you want to highlight, or just anything in software development?
We're looking for a head of engineering on the tech side right now that we're actively hiring for. And I think more of a project manager as well. I'm not the direct hiring manager, but someone that could help us build out this tech stack and the customer facing product side of it. So a product developer, software developer type of person.
Fantastic. All right. So all you tech folk out there who are software developers, or even in the management side, engineering managers, head of engineering, even up to VP of engineering and so on, please go check out Ravalia Bio. Hopefully you were listening and you heard the amazing stuff they're doing, taking the transplants that get rejected and turning it into
and giving them a voice, giving them impact, and building systems that create real world impact that is going to revolutionize how people are testing the human body, which is awesome, and human body data, and being able to deliver solutions that are going to transform that. That's awesome. That's incredible.
Absolutely.
So
I really think that we're going to transform the way that drugs are developed.
Oh, 100%.
Super excited about it.
That's awesome. So again, Janet Nikolovski, thank you so much for joining us. Ravalia Bio, head of R&D with them, Chief Data and Innovation Officer. Thank you again. Where are you? We didn't even ask. Where are you at right now? Are you in New Haven? Are you in Michigan?
I am at home in New Jersey. So I work out of remotely, but I go into the office once a month, and the office is in New Haven, Connecticut.
Yep. Which is right near Princeton. No, Harvard. Just kidding. Right near Yale. It was a joke. I know where Yale is. I've been to the university. All right. So again, Janet, thank you so much for joining us. For everyone else, subscribe, like, comment, go connect with Janet on LinkedIn, go to Ravalia Bio's webpage. This was fantastic, and go blue for University of Michigan. So thank you so much for joining us. To everyone else, again, subscribe, like, do all the things in socials, and join us next week. Goodbye.
Thank you guys. What a pleasure.